Welcome to Am I the A-hole, where OP scolds her daughter because her cooking hobby has become a headache for the whole family. And whenever she cooks elaborate meals, the family has to eat out. Let's dive into the story.
My daughter, Lily, 14-year-old female, has always had a passion for cooking. Ever since she was a kid, she would hang around the kitchen, watching us cook meals. For the last 2 years, my daughter has been experimenting with different recipes, watching cooking shows, and even reading cookbooks. She tells everyone she wants to be a professional chef one day. Initially, I thought it was great that my daughter had found something she loved. I even thought about enrolling her in a professional culinary course. However, I didn't tell her at that time, as I was waiting for the right moment to bring it up. Over time, my daughter got really good at making simple dishes like pasta, creamy potato salad, sloppy joes, cornbread, etc. My wife and I always appreciated what she cooked, but recently, things have started to get a bit out of hand. My daughter has become obsessed with making more complicated gourmet meals. It started with trying out fancy desserts and gradually escalated to full-course meals with ingredients I had never heard of. Now, she insists on cooking for the whole family at least twice a week. She even wants to participate in cooking for the extended family dinner, which we organize once a month. My daughter spends hours in the kitchen, and by the time she is done, the kitchen is a complete mess. And my wife and I end up spending an hour just cleaning up after her cooking session ends. While some of the meals she cooks turn out well and tasty, others are completely spoiled. We have had a couple of nights where the food was nearly inedible, and we had to eat out. What really pushed me over the edge was a dinner she made last week. She decided to cook a very complicated French dish that I cannot even pronounce. I think it was 𝐒𝐓𝐻𝐒, or something like this. She insisted on going to a specialty store to buy ingredients, which cost us a small fortune. It took her 6 hours to prepare everything, and by the time it was ready, it was nearly 9 p.m., around 2 hours later than our dinner time. I thought it was okay, thinking that our daughter was learning to cook. But when I had the first mouthful, the meal was completely dry and tasteless. And to top it off, she forgot to make anything for her younger brother, who's a picky eater. I was so angry, but I controlled my anger and suggested to my daughter that she should not involve herself in these elaborate meals, and that I would pay for her to join a professional culinary course. For now, she should stop messing up in the kitchen. After hearing this, her mood changed. I then tried to change the topic and said, "Come help me clean up the kitchen," but she refused, saying she was tired and told me that she couldn't help. She behaved as if she was a professional cook, and I had insulted her by asking her to clean up the kitchen. I got furious and said, "Lily, you are not a chef, and you must help me clean up the kitchen. If you are really interested in learning to cook, you must join classes. Otherwise, you are not allowed to cook at home." My daughter said that she didn't need any classes because she already knew how to cook, and then she stormed off to her room. It has been 5 days since she has not talked to me. She hasn't cooked anything, and she hasn't gone near the kitchen. My wife thinks I was too harsh, and that I should have been more supportive. She says our daughter is just trying to follow her passion, and that cooking makes her happy. I get that, but we can't keep living in chaos every time she decides to cook, and it's getting out of control. I am not against her following her passion, but I want some normalcy in our lives. I want to have dinner on time. She's 14, and while it's great she loves cooking, there are limits. Now, I am confused about whether my behavior with my daughter was justifiable, or if I am wrong. I need some genuine advice.
So, AITA?
OP is certainly not an AH here, and what he did was 100% justified. To be honest, it was not scolding, but rather OP was setting boundaries for family life. It is great that OP's daughter has found a passion at 14, and cooking is a really good profession. However, messing up the kitchen, refusing to clean up, and considering herself a professional cook without learning is not justifiable. So, OP's daughter deserved this mild scolding. So, I would give OP 0 out of 5 on the A scale. Let's now move on to another story where OP's wife is adamant about spending money that OP's late wife had left for her children on her daughter. My 43-year-old male late wife Olivia passed away 10 years ago. After her death, I raised our 2 kids, Emma, 15F, and Jake, 12M, as a single father. During her lifetime, we maintained separate finances, but we also had a joint account for our household expenses. The money my wife had in her separate account was meant for our kids, though she never mentioned it, but it was implied so. 5 years ago, I remarried to my second wife, Laura, 38-year-old female. She has a daughter, Chloe, 15-year-old female. from her ex-husband. We also have a son, Ben, 4M, together. I always treated my stepdaughter as my real one, but from the start, I made it clear to my wife that the money my late wife had left was for Emma and Jake. My wife didn't say anything about it, and in fact, she was not supposed to. We were doing very well, and we never thought of using that money because we never needed it. However, for some time, things have been tight in the pocketbook due to inflation and children growing up. Now, it is a little bit harder to handle our finances. My stepdaughter has been in dancing, and she has been practicing for over 4 years. Now, she is passionate about her professional career. She wants to join dance classes that she and her mother say are really important for her career. However, the problem is that they are expensive, way more than what we could afford right now. My wife has been pushing me to use some of the money my late wife had left to cover my stepdaughter's dance classes, but I stood my ground, telling her that this money was for Emma and Jake, and not to spend it on other petty things in the household. However, my wife does not see things that way. She says that my late wife didn't leave any clear instructions about where to use the money she had left, so we can use it for family needs. I again told her that the money was not for family needs. It was only for Emma and Jake, and that they would get the money when they would turn 18. My wife got angry and said that I was prioritizing Jake and Emma over my stepdaughter and our son, Ben, and that I didn't consider my stepdaughter a part of the family. What really hurt was that I love my stepdaughter deeply, but I also feel deeply about honoring what I believe my late wife would want. I told my wife that this isn't about playing favorites or putting Emma and Jake on some pedestal. The reality is that I truly believe the money belongs to them, and I'm just holding it until they are ready to take control of it. My wife continues to tell me we can use the money now, then work on saving more for all the kids in the future, but to me, that feels wrong. Now, what happens when something unexpected happens, and Emma and Jake haven't got that safety net later? The last thing I would want would be to betray what Olivia would have wanted. Despite continuous insisting from my wife, I stood my ground and refused to use that money on my stepdaughter. I told her that I would not use that money on our biological son Ben, and even on myself. It was for Emma and Jake, so it must remain there until they turn 18. Because of my refusal, my wife is now angry with me, and she thinks that I don't care about her and her daughter. So, am I the AH here? OP is not an AH here because the money OP's late wife had left is clearly for Emma and Jake, and OP's stepdaughter has no right to it. OP's wife is being unreasonable in demanding the money that Emma and Jake's mom had saved for them. Additionally, Emma and Jake's welfare should not be considered less important than OP's stepdaughter's dance classes. OP's wife's demand is not justifiable. Therefore, OP is not an AH, and I would rate him 0 out of 5 on the AH scale, while OP's wife deserves 1.5 on the AH scale. What do the MacReddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to MacReddit for a daily dose. Bye bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.